I've come to realize something painfully clear. Every time betrayal cuts through me, it's never just about the person who hurt me. It's a wound that reopens old scars, some I didn't even know were there. I used to think I was just too sensitive, that I overreacted. But now I see a pattern. One that started long before romantic relationships ever entered the picture. You see, the very first betrayal in my life came from my father. And the messed up thing is, I didn't even recognize it as betrayal at the time. I had no reference point. No idea what a present father was supposed to look like. I just assumed I was. I don't know. Invisible? My mom got pregnant with me, and he left. Just like that. Didn't die. Didn't move away. No tragic circumstance. He just decided he didn't want to be part of that chapter. He stayed in the same town, living his life, while my mom raised me on her own. She worked 2 jobs, barely made ends meet. So I stayed with my aunt during the week. Every week. My mom would pick me up on the weekends when she could. I got used to it. I thought it was normal. I thought it was just how things worked. But it wasn't normal. It was abandonment dressed up as routine. I didn't meet my dad until I was 9 years old. 9. We were at a grocery store. I was holding my aunt's hand, skipping down the candy aisle, when she stopped to talk to some man I didn't recognize. I thought it was a friend of hers. They spoke briefly. Then, out of nowhere, she looked at him and said, "It's her birthday, you know. You want to get her a card or something?" I was mortified. Embarrassed. I remember thinking she was being so rude. Asking a random man to buy me a birthday card? But he did. He picked out a card. Wrote something generic inside. Put a few bills in it. Handed it to me without even making eye contact. I said, "Thank you," like my mom taught me. And then my aunt whispered something in my ear that I'll never forget. "That's your father." My world tilted. Suddenly I wasn't in a grocery store anymore. I was standing on some strange emotional fault line. That man, the one who barely acknowledged me, was my dad. And I had spent 9 years not knowing? I didn't know how to process that. I just stood there, staring at the man walking away like I was some stranger he'd just done a small favor for. Not his daughter. Not a child he abandoned. Just someone. About a week later, I saw him again. Not face to face, though. I was sitting on the school bus, looking out the window, and I saw him walking a little kid to the same bus I was on. Helping them with their backpack. Smiling. That smile burned into me. It wasn't for me. It never had been. I asked my aunt later, "Do I have any siblings?" She said no. So that meant the kid was a stepchild, someone he chose to help raise, while his own biological daughter grew up blocks away without even a hello. Even now, I sometimes dream about that moment. The feeling of being in that bus seat, cold plastic against my legs, watching my father give someone else what I needed so badly. And I was right there. He saw me. I know he saw me. And even then, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe he had his reasons. Maybe I just wasn't lovable enough. That thought buried itself deep. That maybe I wasn't lovable enough. That wasn't the only time I felt that way. When I was 7, before I met my dad, my mom got pregnant again. This time she kept the baby. My little brother. He got to stay with her. Meanwhile, I was still at my aunt's 5 nights a week. I watched my brother get what I never had, a full-time mom. Home-cooked meals. Bedtime stories. A warm hug at the end of every school day. And I couldn't help but wonder, why not me? What did I do wrong? Was I a burden? Too much? Why wasn't I worth keeping? I would hear my mom laugh with him. Watch her make his favorite meals. She would brush his hair, fix his clothes. Things she rarely had the time or energy to do with me. And no one ever said it out loud, but I knew it in my bones. I was the extra. People love to talk about forgiveness. About healing. About inner strength. But how do you heal when the world keeps confirming the same thing? You don't matter as much as others. I've carried that message with me into every relationship since. It follows me like a shadow. Quiet, but always present. And now, here I am years later. Married. Betrayed again. And the pain feels like déjà vu. Because this time, it's not just my husband's affair that shattered me. It's the realization that even in this relationship, this one I sacrificed everything for, I still wasn't enough. He cheated. He chose someone else. And worse than the betrayal itself is the ease with which it happened. She didn't have to do anything. She didn't fight for him. She didn't nurture our connection. She didn't know our history or the struggles we overcame together. She just showed up. Sent a friend request. Liked a few pictures. And that was enough to make him forget everything we built. It made me question everything. Did our late-night talks matter? Did our inside jokes mean nothing? The way he looked at me during our wedding, was that a lie too? I listened to Beyoncé's Tyrant for the first time the other night. There's a line that hit me in the chest. I hated you once, but I envy you now. That's exactly how I feel about his affair partners. I used to resent them. Now, I envy them. Because they don't have to try. They just have to exist. And it's enough. Meanwhile, I bend until I break. I give until there's nothing left of me. And still, it's not enough. I started comparing myself to them. Her hair. Her smile. Her energy. Her photos. I became a ghost in my own home, trying to morph into someone else's idea of desirable. But the truth is, I shouldn't have to audition for love I already earned. Where's the evidence that I matter? Where's the proof that I've ever been someone's first choice? Because I look back at my life, and all I see are the times I was almost loved. Almost chosen. Almost important. But never first. Never special. I sit in therapy, and my therapist tells me I'm valuable. That I'm worthy. That I matter. And maybe part of me wants to believe it. But it's so hard to argue with a lifetime of evidence. Because words are nice. But actions are louder. And every time, I've watched people choose someone else. Not because they're better. Not because they're more loyal or more loving. But because they were simply there. Just showing up has always been more powerful than all of my effort. And it's exhausting. I'm tired of trying so hard just to be seen. I'm tired of pouring myself out just to be tolerated, while others get loved for nothing. And worst of all, I'm tired of hating myself for still wanting to be chosen. For still hoping, deep down, that maybe one day, I will be. But what if I never am? What if being me will always be the thing that keeps me in last place? They say healing is learning to love yourself. To stop seeking validation in others. But that's hard when you've never been anyone's first choice, not even your own parents. I don't have a resolution for this story. There's no neat little bow to wrap it in. Just a simple, painful truth: I feel invisible. Forgotten. Replaced. And I don't know how much longer I can keep pretending like that doesn't tear me apart. So if you've ever felt like this, like you're always the one giving more, loving harder, hoping longer, know this. You're not alone. And maybe we won't always get the love we deserve from others. But maybe, just maybe, we can start giving it to ourselves. One scar at a time. But there's another layer to this. Because betrayal isn't always loud. It isn't always an affair or a slammed door. Sometimes it's silence. A birthday forgotten. A question unanswered. A look that lingers too long on someone else. And when you've lived your whole life trying to prove you're worth loving, those quiet betrayals cut the deepest. There's a memory I don't talk about much. It's not dramatic, just a Tuesday. I was maybe 11. My aunt had picked me up from school, and we stopped for gas. I sat in the back seat, staring out the window, and saw a dad helping his daughter into the car next to us. He buckled her seatbelt, kissed her forehead, handed her a juice box. She giggled. It was such a small moment. But it felt like watching an alien life form. Like I was peeking into a version of the world I didn't belong in. I wanted that juice box moment. Just once. I wanted someone to look at me like I was their whole world. But instead, I learned how to shrink myself. To be quiet. Easy. Helpful. Invisible. Because if I couldn't be chosen, maybe I could at least be tolerated. And that survival mode stayed with me into adulthood. It shaped how I showed up in friendships. I became the listener. The fixer. The friend who remembers birthdays, checks in, supports everyone else. But when my world falls apart, silence. Echoes. People say I'm so strong. But strength without support is just exhaustion wearing a brave face. And in love? God, in love I gave everything. Not because I was desperate, but because I thought that's what love required. Unconditional giving. Patience. Loyalty. Forgiveness. I thought if I gave enough, loved hard enough, eventually someone would choose me. But the problem is, when you love without boundaries, you teach people it's okay to love you without effort. I used to think being easy to love meant being low maintenance. Now I realize it just meant abandoning my needs so no one else would abandon me. There were moments in my marriage I'd catch myself apologizing for crying. For being too emotional. For needing reassurance. As if being human was an inconvenience. I learned to read his moods like weather patterns, when to speak, when to retreat, when to be invisible. And I hate that. I hate that I became small just to feel safe. That I gave so much just to be halfway loved. The betrayal wasn't just about his cheating. It was the years of emotional neglect leading up to it. The dismissive comments. The constant comparisons. The way he joked about other women but goes silent when I needed affirmation. And still, I stayed. I hoped. I believed. Because that little girl in the grocery store never left me. She still stands there, card in hand, wondering why she wasn't enough. I look at her sometimes in my dreams. And I want to tell her it's not her fault. That love shouldn't be something you have to earn. But even now, it's hard to believe that. Because when all the evidence says you're replaceable, it takes a kind of inner revolution to believe otherwise. Sometimes I fantasize about disappearing. Not out of pain, but peace. Going somewhere no one knows me. Starting over. Letting go of the weight of proving my worth. But then I think, maybe I don't need to disappear. Maybe I just need to stop disappearing within my own life. Maybe I can start writing a new story, one where I don't audition for love. Where I stop romanticizing scraps. Where I speak my needs and take up space. Where I choose me first. Not because it's easy. Not because I suddenly believe I'm healed. But because I'm tired of waiting for someone else to rescue me from the narrative they helped create. So if you're reading this, or listening, and something in your chest aches because it sounds like your story too, I want you to hear this. You are not too much. You are not hard to love. You are not a backup plan. You were just handed the wrong definition of love. One built on scarcity, silence, and sacrifice. But real love, healthy love, starts with choosing yourself. Loudly. Unapologetically. Consistently. Maybe that's where the healing begins. Not with forgiveness for those who hurt you. Not with pretending it didn't matter. But with standing beside the little version of you who never got picked, and saying, I see you. I choose you. We're going to be okay. One scar at a time.